Hello, podcast listeners. First up, thank you so much for listening to and supporting the podcast. We really, really appreciate it. We love doing it and we love getting the amazing comments in from all of you. Just a quick reminder that the Your Success book is out now on amazon.co.uk and amazon.com. It's currently available in both paperback and Kindle, and the audiobook will be coming out in 2019. Head to tiny.cc/yourbook to check it out. That's tiny.cc/yourbook to check it out. Now, on with the podcast.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Welcome to Your Success Podcast. I'm Mo.
And I'm Angelos.
And today we are talking about something that's really special and I think really important to talk about. And we're talking about the subject of success and failure, and how it doesn't always go the right way, and how we actually approach failures, and how not everything that you see on social media is necessarily true. It's sort of a highlight reel and the best bits, but we need to actually understand what people are actually going through in their business, entrepreneurship, property journey. So Angelos, follow you on social media, just see some of your output. So all seems to be going pretty well for you, right? You know, you've got lots going on, and from what I see on social media, it's all going really well.
Yeah, it is going on the whole really well. But my God, there's some challenges along the way. So I like to offer a little bit of a humorous take on these things on Facebook. The other day I got double penetrated. I got a gas pipe which had a screw go through it, and then my car tire had a screw go through it. So basically I got screwed over that day. And it's just, sometimes you've got to show the balance, right? It can't be all good, because we are human beings, we have down days. And I think it's important to show that you are a balanced person, because if you keep continually trying to impress and to say, look how great my life is, people aren't going to believe it.
I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because especially if you're in an industry where you are trying to be top of the market, or you're trying to show a certain level of credibility, or you're trying to raise investment funds, I think it is quite tempting to only just show the best bits. And I think people are scared to show the real life, in case it makes them look that they're not professional, or they're not competent, or they don't know what they're doing, right?
Yes and no. I think people buy into honesty and transparency, and when you declare, whether it's online or in person, or whatever you decide to do, or how you decide to do it, just be honest with people. People respect that a lot more than saying, my life is great, there are no problems at all, I made £5 billion last week. Who believes that crap? You may impress some people, but long term, it's not sustainable, because you will encounter challenges. And you can't keep masking over them. People like to know that you've encountered problems, and they want to see your character. How have you reacted to that? Because we all encounter problems. So what do? Do you collapse and bend down and cry? Or do you get up again and go, right, round two, let's crack on? And I think it's really important that you show the latter rather than the former.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think how you overcome challenges, how you face adversity, how you keep persevering, all the things we talked about in the Your Success book, and how you actually approach challenges and how you deal with them is much more important than an ability to completely avoid them altogether, because you can't avoid them. There's always going to be something, no matter how much pre-planning you do, no matter how many experts you use, there's always things that are out of your control. So
that's what this podcast is all about, right? So we're going to dive in on what Mo and Angelos, what we have encountered in the past month or so. Just give people a snapshot of the reality of investing in property and business, and some of the things that we've learned, and some of the, we hope that some of these lessons can be of use to others as well. So Mo, do you want to lead with what hasn't necessarily gone too well in the world of Mo?
Well, I got married, so that went really well.
She didn't run away, so that's good.
But obviously, when everything goes so well in one area of your life, there's always the universe to come and kick you into shape and bring you back down to earth. So that went really well. What didn't go so well, so we've got a particularly complex project that we're doing at the moment, and we are slightly behind program on it, and slightly over what we thought the cost would be, and over sort of our contingency amount as well. Not drastically, but sort of enough to be like we need to really sort of think about what we're doing and be careful with what we're doing. But I think the key thing is, and I'm going to talk about a few other examples as well, is I think what you've got to think about is, can you do anything about it? Can you control it going forward? If something happens to you and there's physically nothing you could do differently next time to stop that happening or to change the outcome, then there's no point getting angry about it. There's no point getting down about it. There's no point reacting in any other way than, right, I'm just going to carry on. But I think most of the time, and probably, I don't know, 99% of the time, there's always something you can do that can maybe not eliminate the chance of that happening again, but massively, drastically reduce it. And I talked about this before on the podcast in terms of black box thinking. So we have this culture in our businesses where we look at any issues or system failures or process failures, and it's always just an opportunity to learn to put something different in place. So I think some of the challenges that we face, there's definitely things that we could definitely do differently next time, and we could be better prepared for, and we would go into it with a different view. And then some things, it's just what happens, and you have to have a budget, especially in property. You have to have a budget for unforeseen, unknown unknowns. So things that you can't prepare for, that you just don't know, but you know that there's going to be 10%, 5%, 15%, whatever your threshold is of amounts you need to put aside for it. So yeah, that's one thing. We've also had people leaving, so handing in their notice, and we've had 2 situations, both of which is completely fine. Like, it's cool. We're happy with it. It's fine. It's a shame to lose the people, but one person has been a fairly short notice period, so we've actually had to be like, right, we really need to get someone in before the end of the month, that kind of thing. And the other one has been a much longer notice period, so we've got a lot longer to find someone. And again, it's like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and be like, oh, well, wouldn't it be nice to get longer notice, or wouldn't it be nice to...
If they stayed forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just unrealistic. What you can do is you can look at it and say, right, as a leader, as an employer, as an organisation, as the culture that we've got, is there anything we could have done differently? Maybe, let's tweak a few little things. But actually, the people are leaving because there's certain personal circumstances that mean they need to be in a different location that isn't Plymouth. It's not because they don't enjoy the work. Well, that's what they told me anyway. So again, it's about looking at what's happening and being like, well, actually, is there anything I would do differently? Or actually, do I just need to pick myself up and just carry on? And actually, all the energy I'm going to spend in sitting around moping and complaining, I'm just going to drive into recruitment. And actually, we've done quite well in terms of the recruitment side as well. So I think that's the key thing. So that's 2 examples. I've got a couple others, but I think the key thing for me is looking at what happens. I think you need a bit of time to be like, okay, and just get it out and just be like, whether you need to speak to someone and rant to them, or whether you need to just take some time to talk to your partner or talk to someone about what's happened, because it's quite good to just get that out, right? And then you can be like, right, I've spent 5 minutes talking about it, and now I'm just going to move on and deal with it. And I think that bit's really important. And then you can look at, what do I change going forward? So yeah, what about you? What's happened in your life recently?
Oh, Jesus, Mo. I've had to write it down because there's been so many things. Okay, so as a property investor, you are inevitably going to come across various bits and bobs. So as you know, you're doing large-scale developments. There's always unforeseens, the unknown unknowns. Mm-hmm. And no matter how well you prepare, there's always something that comes along and just kicks you in the balls, right? So I'll give you an example of a project that we just finished. So I bought a block of 4 flats, and it needed everything done to it. It was an absolutely stinking place. 40 years of neglect, cat wee everywhere, rats running around. It's just disgusting. So the actual rip out and conversion into a really nice, refurbed, beautiful block of flats took 10 weeks. It's incredibly quick, efficient, because all the planning for the past, 4 or 5 months paid off. Really good. Brilliant. I'm on a bridge. Bridging finance is where you can use finance to do the refurbs as opposed to normal buy-to-let. And then valuation time. Exciting times, right? So had the first valuer from Paragon. Really cool guy. Except Paragon's policy is to make a 15% deduction on a block of flats in case they ever need to split the leases, and they got to account for that thing. So 15% on 400 grand is a lot of money to suddenly park in that deal, because you've got to pay back your JV investors, and they're the most important people in the world. So I thought, right, okay, let's go to Kent Reliance, because they're a good bank. I know the valuer. He's fair. He came round. He said 10 out of 10 for finish, really impressed. I was like, good, that's what I like to hear. He thinks the values are fair based on comparables. One small issue. I was like, oh no, what could that be? He said, I noticed you got a single skin wall, which to anyone who's listening and not quite sure what that is, there's single skin is where it's either a single brick on its thin side, on the stretcher side, or it could be timber frame. And if it's over 1 story, it could be a little bit dodgy. They may not like it. If it's over 2 stories, definitely not. This was over 1. So the base was 0.5 meter thick of stone. Yeah. It's been there for 150 years. It's not going anywhere. It's slate clad on the outside, so it's the best possible thing. Insulation inside, blah, blah, blah. It's been absolutely fine. But because it was more than 10%, it was 15%, Kent Reliance wouldn't accept it. Not one to give up. So I spoke to the bank, I spoke to the broker, I spoke to the valuer, and I said, look, what can I do to make this a better solution? And they said, well, it's got to have a masonry outer leaf, which basically means block or brick. But to achieve that, to have 2 blocks, bear in mind tenants have just moved in, everything's brand new, I'd have to rehouse them because I'm replacing part of the wall. So to have 2 blocks sat there, I'd need a steel girder because one of the blocks would overhang the base. So I'd need a 8 meter long steel girder with concrete pylons, because you can't just tie it in because of the weight. But underneath those pylons you need foundations. But I can't just dig foundations because I've got the drains running. So it's a major groundwork expedition, thousands of pounds. So I got building control involved, and I got a chartered surveyor and a couple of other guys as well, just to give me a really honest opinion on what can I do. And they said, well, to be fair, what you have now would pass building control anyway, but let's do something to improve it. So we improved the structure, we improved the thermal, we improved the damp side of things. Proposed this to the bank, and building control clearly stated we would happily sign this off. And the bank said no. Really? So I wasted 3-4 weeks just going round in circles. I'm on an expensive bridge. I need to get off it, if you know what I mean. So even today, we've decided to go with another lender. So this is third valuation, man. Third valuation. But this lender, we've spoken to them about single skin issue. They don't have an issue with it at all, provided it's less than a certain percentage, which it is. And so it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. And it's just you just think to yourself, the hard part I thought would have been the building. But it turns out to be the valuation, and sometimes.
But at least the learning there is when you go into the next one, which lenders to go for straight away, or providing they don't change their policy, or at least to check with the policies in the future. So I think that's the
absolutely.
The learning from it.
And I'll tell you what, after I got the information here, I ran out to the other 4 projects which have tenements. And I measured up all of the thickness of the thing. So as long as it's 300 mil or above, generally a valuer will have no issue with it. Luckily, they all were. But bloody hell, what a learning, right? Because this is the 40th project I've done. And this is only the first time I've come across this issue before. But you have to respect the bank. It's their money at the end of the day. It's their risk profile. So all the whilst this is going on, I had to sack off my building team for various issues, which I won't go into. And so I had to step in closer to the project to manage to find other trades and to manage them. And I lost a week or so of time, but I've ended up with a really good, solid team. And after a couple of weeks of working together, we're all great banter, everyone's working towards a common purpose, everyone's helping each other, and that's a really good to have that culture.
Exactly, and I think sometimes you need to look at in fact, not just sometimes, always, you need to look at the positive sides of things that happen. And actually, if as a result of losing some of the team, you then stepped in, okay, it's taken up a bit more of your time, but actually you are learning more about the project and about the process, the team has become tighter, who you can work with, who you can trust, all those kind of things. There's definite positive outcomes. I think in all of the bits of adversity and things you have to overcome, there's always positive things that can come out of it as well.
Most definitely. And these guys we're going to work with for a number of projects in the next 12 months. So they're happy, I'm happy, everyone knows the standard I work to, because you have to be there to impart that standard. Otherwise, they may not know where they stand. And then, Mo, I'll give you an example of where you can get some great news and get kicked in the balls at the same time. Apologies to any of our female listeners who don't have balls.
Kick in the stomach.
Kick in the stomach, kick in the ovaries. Anyway, so I had some really good news. So we turned a bad situation good. So there was a lintel above a door. Okay. So a lintel is basically the thing that supports the load above, so the wall doesn't crash down on the door. And it was a wooden one. It's been there for 150 years, and there was a crack in the corner. I thought, oh no, because this is a significant lintel that we'd have to take out, prop up, prop from downstairs, etc., etc. we had a look at it. We got an engineer around, a structural engineer, to look at it, and he said because there's superficial cracks, it's fine. We'll put a 6mm steel beam across as well, and bolt it through. And that was a great solution. Literally, as they were giving me the good news, I had an email through from the estate agent saying this project that I've been working on for 6 months, another block of flats, where I've spent thousands of pounds, hundreds of hours working to build this great project before we complete. The seller's pulling out.
Oh, God.
Because they heard that from their friend down the pub that they could maybe get more money.
Yeah.
And it's like, guys, I've spent so much time and money, and I couldn't just break down in front of my workers. You just say, right, well done, guys, you come with a great solution, step outside and then vent it to the estate agent. And a special mention for this particular agent, her name's Tess, and she turned this situation around and basically said, look, you could get more money, you could also get a couple billion, but that's not the reality of the situation. The reality is you're getting a very good price from a reliable buyer. It's better to go with this guy. There's only another 4 weeks left.
Yeah.
Don't pull out at this point. And two, I know estate agents get a rough ride, but this particular agent did very, very well, and she salvaged the situation. So it just shows, man, in this industry that we're in, and I'm sure it applies to other industries as well, you can get some great news and some bad news at the same time. And the learning there is just you have to keep your emotions in check. Yes, there's ups and downs, and there's a massive roller coaster through the day, but like you said just now, take those 5-10 minutes, vent wherever you need to, whether it's your wife, whether it's your business partner, whatever, get out of your system and then focus on the solutions. Yeah. It's all about solutions, and that's what I tell the guys on site. Yes, there are loads of problems, but come to me with the solution and then we can sort it out.
I think the key thing is you always just see on social media people's highlight reel and the best bits, and you see super successful people and you think, God, they literally never put a foot wrong, or they never have anything adverse happen to them. And actually, they do probably, and actually because of their activity level and what they're doing, they probably have way more stuff to deal with than anyone else, like who's operating at a sort of normal level. It's just how they deal with it, and they don't necessarily shout about it, but everyone is going through it. And I think that's the important thing to realise, especially if you're sort of early on in your journey and you're looking for people that are role models. And it's good to, when you're starting out, it's good to hear that actually it doesn't always go right. I think, and being aware of what could go wrong.
And probably what you think will go really smoothly will probably throw loads of challenges at you. And it's all about your character, how you're going to resolve those problems. I'll give you another example. Yeah. Whilst I'm on a roll,
Go on, mate.
I've got a vent somewhere, right?
It's going to be a 2-hour long podcast. Buckle in, settle in, listeners.
Yeah, brace yourself. So, funding issues, right? Yeah. So I work with JV partners. They get 10% return on their money, and they do really well, and they help me. So it's a win-win for everyone. And I've been working on this particular one. It's just by the seafront. Been working on it for about 4 or 5 months. And 2 days before we're about to complete, so we're about to complete on the Friday, and the lender's solicitors turned around to my solicitors and said, oh, by the way, it's not vacant possession. But they were told this 3 months ago. This was declared at the outset that it wouldn't be vacant possession. And the sellers, they made me not tell the tenants that they were going to be evicted because the sellers were worried that we're going to lose rent. Yeah. But I said to them, look, guys, we've done this plenty of times. I will cover any rent loss. But it's really, as a human being, you have a responsibility to let these people know that they're probably going to have to move out their home because it's in such a poor standard. They can't stay there. Plus, we've got to do a full refurb. And they wouldn't let me speak to them directly. So I asked the agent, would you be okay with me just expressing in a loud voice what I'm going to be doing here? And I did, and I said, we're going to tear down this and blah, blah, blah. And the tenants aren't stupid. And we established a dialogue. And one of the tenants, their mum was, sadly only weeks left to live. And so it's a really delicate situation, and it had to be handled properly and sensitively and humanely. But the sellers didn't quite understand that. Anyway, fast forward to 2 days before we're about to complete this. The tenants, they knew we were going to complete in a couple of days' time, even though the sellers hadn't even told them at this point. 2 days before, the lender's solicitor says, well, because it's not vacant possession, we're going to have a retention, which basically meant I had to find £40,000 overnight. Now, £40,000, depending on who you are and your situation, may seem like a lot or a little amount of money. But when your funds are tied up with the refurbs, etc., I didn't just have 40,000 overnight that I could just get into. And the lesson here is the power of your network. Okay, so I spoke to one person, and I explained the situation to him, and I showed him the email trail where basically we've been caught out. Not due to our fault, but because the lender's solicitor making a cock up and not finding this out months ago. And he needed overnight to think about it and consider his response. I'm not going to lie to you, didn't sleep well that night because everything was riding on this deal. It was very tricky sellers. They were going to pull out if we weren't going to complete on the Friday. 10 past 10 in the morning, I won't forget that time. It's the 17th of June that this happened on. I'll never forget that date. And he said, I'm happy to lend the money. And he sent the money across, and we managed to complete 5 minutes to 5 on that Friday. We had to perform many miracles during the course of the day. That's just one small part of the story. But, I'm extremely grateful to that investor, and he did very well out of that deal as well. But it's so important to have a great, strong network who will lend you money, who will provide support, who will provide you expertise, and never be afraid to reach out and ask for help. Definitely. Especially on social media.
And I think that the other thing is you should always help people out anyway. Right, karma's good, and it's good to be a good person. You should never expect that to come back, and you shouldn't be doing good deeds because you expect them to come back. But if everything's going all right and you can spare a bit of time, help someone out. If you can let someone off something they owe you, or help them out in another way, or if you can just do good deeds here and there when times are good. When you need to call in favours, and again, it's not the reason you should do it in the first place, but when you need to call in favours, you'd be amazed at the power of your network. And I think probably in your case, you've done so much in terms of the local network for property investing and business and finance and things like that, that you're so well known that actually people will be there to support you and help you out. And actually, if it's a commercial arrangement, and it's a win-win as well, even more so. But you've got to give before you can receive. And I think you've done a lot of giving, which meant that actually when you get into trouble, and I think it's a good lesson for anyone really, you've got to do good things because then they do come back to you. But having a good network and having a good reputation is priceless, because shit's going to go wrong and you just got to adapt and deal with it and be flexible. So
absolutely, mate. I mean, 40 projects on, I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Each building has its own quirks. Yeah. Each lender has its own quirks, as you know.
And also, like you do. Everyone does a certain type, performs at a certain level, and then they always move up. So it's always like you've got experience, but maybe not at that level, because you're always trying to just nudge the levels up as you grow. So you almost like you never become like, you never get to a level where you're completely like 100%. Well, you could just never get there anyway, even if you did just do one type of thing, but even more so if you keep expanding what you do to sort of grow as a business. So.
What's the old saying? You're either earning or you're learning, and exactly. I think we've learned a lot these past few weeks.
Yeah, and now it's time to earn.
And now it's time to make the money. But I think you have to. I was speaking to a friend the other day, and I was explaining to him some of the issues I've been having, and he says to me, "Look, Angelos, you're trying to achieve an incredible amount in a short space of time. Yeah. People go to university for 4 or 5 years, and they don't even reach half of what you're trying to achieve in, say, 12 to 18 months." To do that, to achieve that, you are going to come across a lot of resistance, a lot of pain. You have to just suck it up and get on with it. And I think, like you said earlier, you've got to keep going. It's that perseverance within reason.
Yeah, definitely. So we would love to hear your thoughts at home on any trials, tribulations you've had, how you've overcome them, what's your approach been, have people helped you out, have you helped other people out? I think it's just good to share. Like, we always talk about success and we talk about, like winning and doing great things, but actually it's important sometimes to talk about the flip side and make everyone aware that it doesn't always go to plan, and sometimes you have to be adaptable.
But this is the ugly side of success. Yeah. But this is where the real learning and this is where the character building happens behind the scenes to allow you to reach that next level of success. And people think, oh, how did he get to there? Well, my God, there's been a lot of learning troubles that you've had to get to that high point.
I won't go into the lobster story now. We can say that for another podcast.
Yes, most definitely. I like that story. It's a good one.
The Your Success book is still out. I don't think we've run out of copies just yet, have we?
I think Amazon have a few on their shelf left.
They're getting low. We got one of those warnings. They're getting the stock's low.
After 9,000 copies sold around the world.
So tiny.cc/your book, or just search Your Success on amazon.co.uk or .com. And we are going to be finalising the audiobook very soon, that's coming out very, very soon. So keep your eyes out for that one. And get in touch on hello@Your Success Podcast, or on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and
LinkedIn.
We'd love to hear your stories of success and also of difficulties you face, because I think it's really important
to share and inspire others.
Definitely.
Brilliant. So thanks again for listening. I've been Angelos.
And I've been Mo.
And see you again on the next exciting episode of Your Success Podcast.
You have been listening to Your Success Podcast. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.yoursuccesspodcast.com.